I'm Patti. I think this is probably going on 15 seconds already, so I'll try to be quick. So I'm not up here to talk about Ignite, but rather share something from my day-to-day. I happen to be both a web developer or coder, as well as a designer, so I'm presenting a few of my basic approaches to making the web a slightly more attractive place. Now, before I dive in, I'm gonna start, this might not be the best idea, but I'm gonna start with a look at Google. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of almost everything Google does, but that search page has always bothered me. This is a page that 90 million people look at every month. Now, wouldn't you think that in the last 10 years, they could have taken a little bit of time to make that page look just a little bit better? I mean, it's extremely functional, but why can't it work well and look good at the same time? And that's not to say we have to detract from the simplicity of it either. So in that age-old debate of form versus function, I'm saying, let's have both. Why can't we have web pages that look amazing and still be easy to use and intuitive for our visitors? So going back, this is where I catch up. Going back to that Google homepage, I'm gonna share a couple things that I would do to spruce up that page a little bit. Starting with that mess of blue underlined text to the right of the search box. Now we know that those are links because they're blue and they're underlined, but without reading into the words too closely, do we know whether that's one link or two or three? No, we don't. So when you've got two or three more choices, stick a bullet in the front. It's a great way to say, okay, here are your options. Tip number 2, the only thing you do on this page is type words into a text box. Let's make those text boxes bigger so that we can actually see what we're typing. Speaking of making things bigger and more spacious, in general, it's a good idea to add some white space around all of your elements, especially now that we've got so much more screen real estate. There's no reason to cram all your items up against each other in that way. So along the lines of adding space, let your text breathe too. And you'll notice that most of these tips, they're not fancy Photoshop filters or requiring a design degree. A lot of it's simple CSS and just paying attention to a couple details that you might not have thought of before. Staying with the text, words are wonderful, but only if you can read them. So for any folks who are still setting text in teensy tiny 8-point, 10-point font, go ahead and use the 12 pixels. That can look good too. Of course, add pictures to enhance your text. Or if you're not an illustrator or a photographer, go ahead and pick the most important words, set them in a different font or a different color. That can really snazz up your text a little bit. Next one's a broader one. When you're staring at that blank canvas, don't reinvent the wheel. Don't try to come up with a newfangled way to present web navigation. Stick with the tried and true, and instead just focus on the details and making them better. Next one, if you're working on that color palette, this is my best tip. Steal from nature. Take a photograph or search for a stock photo and then color pick from those photographs. Nature will always have better taste than you. Another one from nature, if you can fade your edges into each other or add some gradients, it's a great way to soften up what otherwise can be a very hard and boxy medium, web pages. Next one is another one from real life. Our eyes are used to seeing depth and distance. So one way that we can mimic that is by layering things on top of each other and making things peek out from underneath something else. Another great way to kind of just add some fun to your looks. This is one for the web. Just embrace that things change. Love the fact that one day your pages can be depressingly empty and then fill with content the next. Key from this one is make sure that both those scenarios still look good. Now, since we can't control everything on our web pages, do be consistent with the things you can control. Your fonts, your font sizes. If you've got one margin that's 10 pixels, make all of your margins 10 pixels. And be consistent not just with your measurements, but throughout your web page too. Design your home pages, even that private policy that nobody looks at, all the way down to those error pages that you hope nobody looks at. And last but not least, get offline. There's so many things to see and places to go that can inspire what you can bring back to the web. So this is where the shameless plug comes in. If you're looking for places to go, check out 600block.com, and you can even download our brand new iPhone app. It's just now available. Thank you so much, everyone.